Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Prosperity 101 Breakroom Economics Podcast. My name is Linda J. Hansen, your host. I seek to unleash the power of employers to reclaim and preserve America by educating employees about public policy issues that affect their jobs. I believe this leads to greater employee loyalty, engagement, and retention, and to an increased awareness of the blessings and responsibilities of living in a free society. Join us each week and be sure to visit prosperity101.com for resources and information. Thank you so much for joining with me today. It is just a joy to have you in the audience, and I have a special guest. But before I introduce Mark Mitchell fully, I want to say thank you to our prosperity partners, those who help us keep the podcast on the air with their gifts. And if you'd like to become a prosperity partner, please visit the website prosperity101.com and hit the prosperity partner link, and you can support us with whatever you feel led to do. We appreciate every amount, and we appreciate your involvement in this educational ministry business effort. So thank you so much. And thank you to our strategic partners. They are also listed on the website and in the show notes. And for the sake of time, I won't list them all right now, but please visit our strategic partners' websites and support them and help us all advance the cause of freedom. So thank you again for listening. And today I have a repeat guest, Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen Polling, Rasmussen Reports. I just love having Mark on because he always brings great information and we have a lot of fun. So don't go away because this will be a great interview that you will learn from in so many ways. So Mark, you've been with me before on the podcast and you've become quite well known. I so appreciate your time. But before we get into the interview, your handle on X is The Honest Pollster. And I'd like you to tell our listeners why you call yourself the honest pollster.
Well, cynically, there is not a lot of money in being honest these days, is my take. And so if I'm going to do it, I might as well take credit for it. I might as well be the only one that calls myself that. No, like really, I think anybody who's still looking at our political challenges from the frame of a red team versus a blue team is caught 20 or 30 years in the past. Where we really are at is an establishment that doesn't work for most Americans now versus an anti-establishment movement that is got a toehold, and we'll see how it plays out. But there's a multi-trillion-dollar grift that has taken hold of our nation, and they do not want the status quo to change. And what recent history has told us is that they will use every tool in their toolbox. And one of the most obvious ones is polling, because a lot of people are mentally infirm. They can't focus their beliefs on logic, on core right and wrong, on principle. They focus on, well, is it okay to think this? Will the mob agree? Can I fit in with the tribe or the herd? Or will this advance my career? And I'm not saying people overtly make these decisions, but that's how people form their worldviews. And the people in charge know this, and there are humans that are very susceptible to manufactured consensus. So if you can manipulate polling and say, no, really, all of your neighbors are actually against deporting illegal aliens, then they can keep them here and have their free labor. Like that's what this is about, that kind of thing. And that makes us very, very, very dangerous to those people, and they've attacked us. But we were the only outfits, for instance, that polled on the COVID vaccines, and the COVID vaccines were very profitable to a lot of very large corporations that have bought a lot of very powerful senators. And they put us on a list. The CIA put us on the Global Engagement Center list and distributed it to Twitter and tried to take us down. It's a miracle that we haven't been taken down.
Yeah. Well, and you have often approached subjects, like you mentioned, subjects that have been unpopular to look at from another angle. But one of the other things that you have done is continually done a daily approval rating, a presidential approval rating, which I go to all the time. And I did before for ever since I've known you, and I love it. And I think that your insights into why numbers go up, numbers go down, are so incredible. And your wisdom, I just see you having a lot of wisdom. And I'm not saying that to, just puff you up or anything, but you do have a lot of wisdom. And everyone in the audience, if you don't listen to him on a regular basis, you want to make sure you do, because the insights you'll glean will really help you understand what's happening in our nation, and you'll see things from a broader perspective. I think, Mark, you really help bring the aerial view, and we can
Thanks.
all get caught up in our little pet issues or how we see or our echo chamber of information, but you help to bring the aerial view. And other pollsters can in some ways, but if they really don't dig as deeply as you do and as broadly, I just don't think they can get as accurate a picture. And that's why
Yeah.
I promote you and love to promote the honest pollster.
Thanks. And I just want to reiterate for people, though, it's not a matter of skill. I think I'm good at my job, but I actually was a career switcher. I came into this from the outside. It really is about will and about people's incentives. And quite frankly, most of the people in this industry are not incentivized to really understand what's going on.
Hmm.
Their paycheck depends on not understanding. And just like a really good example, people will poll on how's Trump doing on the issue of immigration. Like that's a very bland question. And sure, it can tell you something, you can track it over time, but they'll stop there and we'll say, okay, well, do you want a wall or not? Do you support mass deportations or not? Do you want to put these people in human cannons and fire them over a moat full of gators? And that's where people were at. And it
Uh-huh.
got like, we didn't, I mean, I'm being tongue in cheek, but that's where, and so if you don't ask those questions, if you don't have the curiosity to understand, well, is there something deeper going on? And it's, yeah, Americans think that the system is unfair to them. And so they want drastic action. And not a single pollster, like you could tell, they were framing our situation about that. And we were. And like, yeah, you're right. We are the only person tracking daily numbers now. We track presidential approval and we track right direction, wrong track. And that also makes us dangerous because that's how I know when a lot of people are lying. Now, remember, there was this manufactured headline back in April that Trump had the worst polling
Hmm.
of any president in the last 80 years at his 100-day mark. Well, in my polling, his numbers didn't change. Like they were like kind of all over the place because of tariffs, but it was in a band that stayed relatively flat. But right the weekend before that headline came out, all of the mainstream pollsters purposely put out bad polls for Donald Trump.
Hmm.
They all moved like 5 to 10 points to the left, and then the numbers came back. So it was clearly some scummy little thing they coordinated to put a bad headline out for Donald Trump because again, so much is at stake. And his numbers have been different than other presidents. He did not get a massive honeymoon like Barack Obama did, but he is also proving himself to be very resilient now when usually what happens is 6 to 9 months into a presidency, people start to get buyer's remorse. And I don't think they're getting that with Trump. And we've seen now a recent surge with the Charlie Kirk stuff. Um, but a lot of concerns about the Republicans. I mean, we're not out of the woods yet, so to speak. Like things are going to probably get worse.
Yeah. When you said we're not and paused, I thought out of the woods. We're not out of the woods. We can see a lot of positive movement where people are waking up to what's actually happening in America, but it is not. We're not there yet. We're still
Yeah.
really dealing with things. I saw, yesterday, President Trump gave a great speech at the UN. And I don't know when people will actually hear or see this podcast interview, but I felt like personally, I felt like these things needed to be said for decades with the UN. And I was so glad somebody had the courage to say it. And I love the way that there is an America first mentality, not an America only, but an America first mentality. And it
Yeah.
seems like you're polling, the people are understanding that that's the direction we have to go, whether it's on immigration. They don't want all their jobs being taken by illegals. People are sick of paying paying exorbitant amounts to, fund illegals. But, we're still a welcoming nation. We welcome immigrants, but we don't want to fund illegal immigrants. And that's one thing, you've polled on education, you've
They don't
polled
even want
on,
regular immigrants.
yeah, people
People are,
are
yeah.
done. Yeah.
America's full. Go
Yeah.
home. Our economic futures have been stolen from us. That's
Hmm.
where America's at right now. And again, these weren't problems 20, 30 years ago when we
Hmm.
weren't in existential crises.
Hmm.
And people are going to say that I'm blackpilling, and I want to know when I say negative things, I'm screaming for somebody to do something about them. I feel like there's a vacuum of leadership. Trump was the right person at the right time to basically take our system and say, no, they literally just, it's not that they can't do it, it's that they don't want to do it. And yes, they are ignoring your interests.
Hmm.
That is what Trump has taught people. And also, it's way worse than you thought. I think that's
Hmm.
the lesson that Trump has taught people. I think he's the right leader for this time, but I think that we are only really starting to uncover the depth of the societal
Decay.
sins that we've been
Hmm.
racking up. Like, it
Hmm.
is way worse than anybody thinks. I'm going to tell you people right now, your audience, a really good example, because people will look for the hopium and they'll pat themselves on the back and say, wow, 18 to 29-year-olds, they're more conservative than any generation in a decade. That is a blatant lie. And it's a lie because people are cherry picking the information or trying to not really understand the depth of the problem.
Hmm.
These people, even the ones that identify as conservatives, as Trump supporters, they are not pro free market capitalist. They think the economy is unfair to them
Hmm.
by a 2 to 1 margin. And we even had almost over 3/4 of Trump voters in the 18 to 29-year-old bracket saying that they supported nationalizing major industries like healthcare and energy
Hmm.
to give control and equity to the people. We had almost 60% of Republicans, self-identified 18 to 39-year-old Republicans, say that they supported excess wealth confiscation, and only 1/3 of them said no to the idea of implementing income caps. And now it's like, well, how did they get there? Why is that? Well, it's like we all know that public schools have been a problem, and
Hmm.
yet nobody's done anything about them. And it's like,
Hmm.
okay, well, Trump got rid of the Department of Education. Is that enough? Well, I don't know. Like, all of academia is now pervasively left wing and propagandistic. Now boardrooms, and again, these people are not your average MSNBC
Hmm.
dialogue ideologue. They're somebody that's just bought into a system that's going to perpetuate it. And that
Right.
system is not instilling younger generations with the correct traditional Western logos driven values that we have. We threw the 10 Commandments in the dumpster out of schools. They said thou shalt not commit murder. And now we have a problem with violent youth.
Hmm.
Like what did we think was going to happen? And people have been sleeping on the internet. They have been not looking at the way these kids are rattling. It wasn't just the teachers.
Hmm.
It wasn't Mrs. Smith in the third grade who is teaching your child about socialism and Marxism.
Hmm.
They're getting it from the online monoculture that develops because places like Reddit have, in my opinion, been ruthlessly silencing conservative debate. And now we're going to see how bad it is, and it's bad. If these 18 to 29-year-olds get in charge, it's these problems need to be fixed very rapidly. And I think we're all starting to realize that although Trump's saying and doing the right things, the problem is way bigger than he can fix.
It is, and I'm glad you brought up Reddit. I heard you on an interview uh, recently talking about Reddit, and we've seen after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, because we have this assassination culture now through what has happened. We so many people were cheering, and you talked before about like a spiritual divide, and we have this divide. It isn't even just establishment, non-establishment. I look at it, we have a divide of good and evil. It is
Yeah.
so clear, and people have to decide which side they're on. And I think Charlie Kirk's death, and especially the way he died while he was trying to have a peaceful dialogue with people, I think, that really woke a lot of people up, or at least caused a lot of people to think. But you see now, people still to this day talking about how, great it was that he was killed, or, threatening to kill his wife, all these horrible, horrible things. How
Yeah.
did we get here? It's a godless society. It is really a godless society. And you're right. Trump can't save America. Nobody can, but God can. I truly believe God can. Through a revival, a spiritual revival, that is really the only thing that is
Yeah.
really going to save that freedom and help people to have the opening of their minds. We need to transform their spirits so they can renew their minds, and renew their spirits so their thinking can be transformed. I mean, this is where the Holy Spirit comes in. We open our minds and begin to see things in a new light. It's very refreshing to see all the testimonies of people who have started to, read the Bible or go back to church, or they started to see the lies in the media. And then they're like, how was I blind so long? Right. Well, we all have to learn. We all have our journey. But I think that is a really important piece. Well, it is the most important piece, that spiritual grounding in terms of how we can take truth forward for our nation.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, God has to inspire people to action,
Mm-hmm.
and ultimately where we wind up. Because if you look again, most of the MAGA components are very strongly popular.
Mm-hmm.
If you take them in isolation, like election integrity, oh, that's 80%. Massively deporting people, that's like 65%. Like these
Mm-hmm.
are very strongly held American opinions. The problem is that when it gets to the ballot box, through a whole bunch of reasons, many of which are lies, we are a 50-50 country.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the problem you see is, okay, well, we had that powerful event in Arizona for Charlie Kirk, and not the majority of Democrats, but the majority of their levers of power are like, oh, look, a Nazi rally. Oh, isn't that hilarious? Look at the fascists. They're like organizing a Nazi.
Mm-hmm.
And and so that needs to be extricated,
Mm-hmm.
just like that rot needs to be extricated from the church. And yes, I do think the Holy Spirit is going to change minds, but it's like, well, that was a pretty powerful event in Arizona. And it's like, well, you look at Reddit and there's still, and it's
There's
so,
still
I use
so
Reddit
many.
just because it's so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
People aren't watching MSNBC anymore. Well,
Mm-hmm.
there was YouGov put a pretty good poll out. I mean, they're not a good pollster, but they put a pretty good poll out that showed that only 10% of Democrats think that the assassin that killed Charlie Kirk allegedly was a left wing ideologue. Only 10%.
Mm-hmm.
So now they're not all watching MSNBC. The ratings are not anywhere near high enough. MSNBC.com is almost ranked 900th in the country now. Nobody's going there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, yeah, maybe CNN. Do they all really read the New York Times? These people probably aren't reading.
No, you're right.
So where are they getting it? And I can tell you that most Democrats don't cheer the death of Charlie Kirk, and yet they still are completely misled and lied to on very important things, like the ideology that was responsible for his assassination. It's basically their internet echo chambers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I don't know if there's cross pollination between Reddit going on to Blue Sky and Threads, or if it's just a hive mind that knows what to think in advance. Well, we can't perish the thought that this individual is a leftist. My own carefully constructed psychological bubble is incapable of that level of cognitive dissonance. That could
Mm-hmm.
be what's happening.
Right.
But when I look at Reddit, again, number 5 website in the US,
There's a
where
lot of power.
mostly are young people.
Mm-hmm.
They're mostly exposed to very degenerate stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
It's all adult conversations. And they go and these subreddits are moderated by anonymous people. Nobody knows who they are, and they wield unbelievable power.
Mm-hmm.
The top 200 moderators moderate 20,000 different subreddits. Among
Mm-hmm.
them are the largest political community on the internet. It's got like 9 million followers, Our Politics. And you cannot have a conservative viewpoint on that site. You will be ruthlessly banned. And so if you want to see, like, go back and look on Our Politics for posts about Charlie Kirk before his assassination. This is where he's being called a Nazi. This is where he's being called a fascist, and it's hate, and he's being hateful, and words are violence, and oh, by the way, people posting on that sub are also posting on the subreddit for anti-fascist subreddit, 120,000 followers. And you can go there, and there's links to Discord groups, private Discord groups. There's links to the dark web. There's links to places that teach you how
Mm-hmm.
to have an anonymous online profile and not be tracked. Like, why? And why has our agencies not concerned themselves with this at all?
With
5 years
tracking these
after we
people.
had overt Antifa violence. And the culture war is being fought here as well. And I
Hmm.
think on each platform's a little different. I think conservatives won the culture war on YouTube, but on Reddit, they're
Not
not
at
even on
all.
the
Hmm.
battlefield.
Hmm.
And the transsexual subreddit is bigger than the Christianity subreddit
Hmm.
by a lot. And it's like, okay, well, where are these kids getting trans? It's not the drama. It's not all of their drama teachers.
Hmm.
It is places like this because 23%, according to Gallup, identify as LGBTQ. That's
Hmm.
probably way more than the number of 18 to 29-year-olds that identify as Christians. I can guarantee you that.
Well,
And if you just look at things like, well, how many of these are involved in, for instance, a Boy Scout or Girl Scout program,
hmm.
or were when they were teenagers?
Hmm.
The number's it's got to be less than 5%, 2, 3%. 23% of them are gay.
Hmm.
Like, so like that's what society is going to become. And so society now needs to address
Re
that
we need to
very aggressively.
recalibrate. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we need to recalibrate and and really bring truth because these people are starving for truth and they're starving for community. And again, I go back to revival, a spiritual revival, if it really happens and they
Yeah.
allow that in and Christians live as Christians should and love and yes, we love everyone, but we do want justice for those who are killing people and things. Love and justice can equally exist, but because that's how God is, right? But we can forgive, we can love, but we do want justice. But at the same time, I do want to go back to something that you said. You mentioned how these young people are in the boardrooms now. And that
Yeah.
is, my whole thing is connecting boardroom to break room, right? And being able to help people understand the effects of all of this on businesses and on jobs, economy. And when you talk about people, their opinions on the economy and guaranteed income or earnings caps and things. These are just very dangerous trends that we're seeing.
Yeah.
And so I would call on employers and say, employers, these people are in the workforce now. They obviously have not been taught the basics of American government, about capitalism, about free enterprise, about our founding documents. They've not been taught this in the schools. This is partly why we have such a crashing of our culture. And so, employers, you know the truth. Those of you who know the truth, stand up. And, that's why I do what I do. That's why I have my course. That's why I have resources. That's why I'm coming out with something new in October, by the way. So, here's a little sneak alert that something new in October is coming, a new resource and some exciting opportunities for business leaders. But apart from that, we really need to change a culture. And I think conservative business leaders and even conservative Christian business leaders have been afraid to speak up. I mean, they've been silenced. They just think, oh, I can't talk about that. But look where we are because they didn't talk about it. So we need to have
Yeah.
bold leaders that will step up. Do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah. No, 100%. We are past the point where we have the luxury to put our hands over our eyes and see
Hmm.
no evil.
Hmm.
Um, I don't. I don't think anybody can contort themselves into thinking that what we have right now is free market capitalism.
Right.
And the problem is for the young ones is that the system that they think is free market capitalism is not working for
Isn't.
them.
Hmm.
And so they are going to go into the arms of socialism. In a sample that went to Harris by only 4 points, they want a democratic socialist to win by over 20 points, including many, many, many people who voted for Trump. So this is not about Republican and Democrat anymore.
Right.
And this is a reckoning that's coming for America. And already it's poisoning the boardrooms. And I'm not necessarily saying like open, naked communists. I'm talking about the mental infirmity that puts objective decision making on a back burner. And an
Hmm.
example I'll use is the Cracker Barrel situation, which was laughably bad. I've worked
Yes.
with people like that. I'm sure she was a smart, conscientious worker, probably a very impressive professional,
Hmm.
but she made a very, 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 very bad decision.
Hmm.
and it destroyed a
Hmm.
lot of shareholder capital. And I can only conjecture why, but having worked with these people, it's like, well, I'm going to make a decision that feels right for me, that validates my opinions, and everybody around me, if they act really great about it, then it's probably the right thing. I
Hmm.
think there was some aspect of that because there wasn't the mentality, and I saw this at Walmart. There wasn't the mentality of understanding the customer, actually asking them, testing things, improving the things that people overtly say is wrong with your product, like the food's bad. Well, making the food better cuts margins.
Hmm.
So we can't do that. But you can capitalize a massive investment and hide it basically without touching margins by doing something that basically sanitizes a great experience, takes something authentic away from people and turns it into basically global homogenized slop. And they felt good doing it. They thought they
Hmm.
were doing the right thing and everybody on the board agreed with it. And
Hmm.
it's like, no, you just destroyed an American icon. I don't know how they're
Right.
ever going to recover from this. I really don't. It's probably going to have to get I don't know. It'll probably become a penny stock and get bought out by private equity people who will lever it up 7x and then strip mine it.
Hmm.
And it's sad. And it's like, okay, well, those are the people, in my opinion, that are the majority of folks in a position of power. It's the same people doubling down on the H-1B program that
Hmm.
personally, I have my own personal reasons having seen inside Walmart. We all know that there's hundreds of thousands of them that have taken very trainable jobs for Americans. Remember,
Yes.
like they convinced America that you could learn to code in 12 weeks, and then they imported half of India. Like
Right.
they really did. Like Walmart was 70%, their technology program was almost 70% foreign national Indians. And that's the biggest company in the United States by revenue.
Hmm.
And I can tell you it was not cheaper because 80% of the problems affecting customers were caused by poor engineering practices, lack of user acceptance testing, very poor root cause corrective action for bugs. Everything has been bogged down by a lack of focus on principle, objectivity, and integrity.
Hmm. Very
And
well said.
yeah, we got to fix that.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you do it? Trump can't be the human that fixes this. He can't.
Right.
And it's everything's
Can't
just going
fix
to get worse
everything.
until America the pot is going to finally get too hot for the frog, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. And I'm glad you brought up the H-1B thing too. I've had a fairly recent podcast episode with Rosemary Jinks. So, listeners, if you have not seen or heard that, please go to that and you'll learn a little bit more about the H-1B visa program and you'll understand why it's important to change this and protect American workers. It's very important that we protect American workers. I think we all know people who have lost their jobs. Maybe they actually had to train in their lower paid foreign counterpart, and that is not right. We need to protect American citizen jobs and protect American workers. And I just think that this is really an important issue. So I'll be watching the polling on that as we continue to go.
Yeah.
But okay, well, time
Well,
is
we
up.
polled on it.
Yeah, tell
The
us.
H1, well, the H1B program is very, very popular.
Right.
And it's because people like the idea of talented individuals being attracted to America. And, it was in the 60s, I think. They're like, oh, yeah, it's cool. We should be able to get these people. And most pollsters would have stopped there. But then we were like, well, does corporate America really need these people to be competitive, or are they just exploiting cheap labor?
Hmm.
And that one won.
Yeah.
Yes, the corporations are exploiting cheap labor, like
Right.
obviously.
You have to
But
look deeper.
yeah,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
having
I
seen it from inside one of these behemoths, it is absolutely being manipulated in ways that have is beyond the scope of any discussion I've ever heard anybody have on it.
hmm
They get a CTO at the top who's like, "Yep, I will set up a hub in Bangalore." They set up a hub in Bangalore, and all of a sudden they're like, "Well, we need these teams over here too." And then I'm not being I'm just saying culturally they hire very nepotistically. I've seen it. The
hmm
Sunnyvale building, 20 to 30% of the Silicon Valley workforce is Asian.
hmm
And in the Sunnyvale, the San Bruno building at Walmart, it was like 80 or 90% Indian. And I've had the discussions. I've seen like their primary interest isn't solving customer problems. Like my mindset was let's manage myself out of a job. If I'm a problem solver and the problems are gone, then everybody's happy and we have a perfect customer experience. Theirs was grow the team at all cost. And then you have Cognizant, these contractors that are going around and they were meeting with me. They're like, hey, what can we set a ticket queue up for you? Can we get like, we want to more work, more work, more work. And then all of the bugs get swept under the carpet. They do it in there's no accountability. Product and technology
Mm-hmm.
engineering reported up to the same leaders. Uh, I think, like personally, if there had been feedback loops and root cause corrective action programs, Walmart could probably cut 10,000 engineers if they were smart about actually building good engineering. But that's not what they're incentivized. So this is like just a massive incentivization scam. And it's like, well, on the tenuous promise of a 10 to 20% cut in expense for
Mm-hmm.
engineering headcount, that was enough for the major Fortune 500s. Let's acknowledge that it's only the ones at the top that can really use this
That can
program
really.
because they can
Mm-hmm.
afford the army. So it's
Mm-hmm.
also a wealth concentration Gini coefficient thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Concentrate power at the top. They all have lobbyists who are lobbying for expanded H-1B programs. Look at what happened to Elon.
Mm-hmm.
Elon freaked out when you mentioned it. Now, Elon is not employing 10,000 of the best and brightest engineers from India. That's not what's happening. It's basically cannon fodder.
Mm-hmm. Well, I do think you need to keep polling on this. I really do, and help dig down because as it becomes more in the news and as this continues to go through in Congress and people discuss it, hopefully we can educate people on why this program needs to change or end.
Yeah.
And I do want to clarify, just in case someone's listening and thinks just because you mentioned, foreign people or whatever, it has nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with ethnicity. It has to do with legal citizens versus illegal citizens, and
Yeah.
and also even if they come in legally, but they're taking these American jobs at a lower rate, and so our American workers are pushed out of their
Yeah.
positions, often forced to train in the ones who come in, and so the company can pay a lower rate and the American worker is then unemployed, and this is just not right, and
Yeah.
it doesn't bring the customer satisfaction like you talked about. That's a problem, and it needs to be fixed. We need to protect our American workers, and that's bottom line. America
Everybody
first.
here has probably ordered from Walmart,
Mm-hmm.
and statistically speaking, there's a very high chance that they screwed your order up. It is
Yep.
because of the H-1B engineering. I'm telling you right now,
Mm-hmm.
80% of their problems were caused by engineering failures. And
Interesting.
again, I'm not making it about race. I will say that Walmart has almost 100% invested technology, specifically in the country of India. They picked
Mm-hmm.
this, not me. And of the H-1Bs that are in this country, over 70% of them are India. I think the next highest is China at only 12%.
Mm-hmm.
So this is very much an Indian thing. Now, whether it's about race or not, I think we can talk in a clear-eyed manner that different countries have different cultures. That's why
Exactly.
humans travel. That's why
Mm-hmm.
they eat different food. That's why you go to a Chinese restaurant and it's different than going to an Italian restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying objectively that some parts, well, I am. I'm saying objectively some parts of the culture that Walmart imported is different than the corporate culture that one would traditionally expect in a very high attention to detail environment where customer experience and issues were on the line. That's what they did, and they have reaped the customer damage that came along with that specific decision.
Mm-hmm.
And th-
And they're
nobody's
just
talking
one
about
of,
that.
yeah, and they're just one of many. So it's
And
really
and
great.
I'll also tell you how low the bar it was for these companies to sell Americans down the river.
Mm-hmm.
And they do it with the lies. That's why I fight this stuff because there's always a narrative that explains the establishment position that allows them to strip mine the American taxpayer.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, well, Americans can't do these jobs. First, it was Americans don't want to do these jobs. They don't want to pick avocados.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you make Americans pick avocados, you're going to have to pay more and avocados will go up in price. Then your avocado farm will shut down, and
Mm-hmm.
then the market will rebalance itself, and the price for picking avocados will be the right price.
Right.
That's how free market works. We don't have free market.
Right.
We imported 1 million people to pick avocados or whatever because we specifically didn't want a free market. The same thing works here. These people are engineering.
Mm-hmm.
They I was taught to operate a nuclear reactor by the Navy in less than 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
If they wanted to, they could train what they needed to. Any one of these corporations couldn't. They just didn't want to.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's, and I think we'll need to close on that, but you said they could, but they didn't want to. And I think that that's true for anything. I think that we can stand up for what we believe in America. We could, but we didn't want to, right? And so we have this culture that is destroying our nation, and then we have such division. But we can stand up. We can make a difference. We can bring truth to the airwaves, to the social media accounts. We can bring truth. We can educate people. We have to want to. We have to want to, and then we have to do it. And so, action, action, action. as someone we both know always says, action, action, action. And we, as citizens, as people, as business leaders, as parents, as community citizens, we have to be the change we want to see. So, and as the changes occur, you will be bringing us the news of how America is responding. So how can people follow you? And as you give us your coordinates, your social media coordinates, and how they follow you, I would like you to also just share any final comments.
Yeah, I think things are changing really fast now. It's picking up, and the fourth turning tells us that we're at the end. We're at the absolute bottom of institutional trust, and we're going to understand, I think, soon that the federal government is probably too big in its current form to be fixed with the ways that we have to fix it. I don't want to be ominous. I have no idea what that looks like, but I think that's where we're at, and things are changing fast now. Now people are very concerned about political violence. It actually tops concerns about inflation all of a sudden because of this particular situation. So it's really woken people up. And then also there's this contradiction. Again, I don't know where this is going, but our polling shows that this is a majority Christian nation. 72% agree that Jesus Christ is the Son of God who came to earth to save our sins. We've seen that. Over 70% say religion is important to their daily lives. And yet at the same time, massive changes. We poll every once in a while on the death penalty, and people are supportive, 49 to 36. But we polled on DeCarlos Brown after the Rita Zarutska murder. It was 60-20, plus 40, a 27-point move towards a death penalty. So people, the tenor of the nation, Christian though it be, is that people want very strong accountability. And I think what happens when they don't get it? What happens when the Democrats probably pick up a majority in the House? So it's going to be wild. Yeah, I guess follow our socials, Rasmussen_poll on Twitter, @HonestPollster. We stream a couple times a week at Rasmussen_poll on YouTube as well. But we're also at Rumble and Getter as well.
Well, definitely. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. And I hope that all my audience members do go check out your videos, check out your polls, get on your mailing list. You can watch just everything that's happening with the polling. And I do love the way that you poll at a deeper level and you go beyond the surface. So thank you for that, because it educates us so much more on what's really happening and what we need to do to change it, what we need to do to bring positive change. So thank you so much. I look forward to having you back again.
Yeah, anytime. Great to be here.
Thank you again for listening to the Prosperity 101 podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share, and leave a great review. Don't forget to visit prosperity101.com to access the entire podcast library, to order my newest book, Job Security Through Business Prosperity, the essential guide to understanding how policy affects your paycheck, or to enroll you or your employees in the Breakroom Economics online course. You can also receive the free ebook, 10 Tips for Helping Employees Understand How Public Policy Affects Their Paychecks. Freedom is never free. Understanding the foundations of prosperity and the policies of prosperity will help you to protect prosperity as you become informed, involved, and impactful. Please contact us today at prosperity101.com to let us know how we can serve you. Thank you.